Hi guys, my name is Jack Dillon. I'm a senior at Vanderbilt University, and for my learning challenge this semester, I decided to explore Nashville's EDM scene, which is electronic dance music. Which I guess you could say is kind of niche, but there's a reason I picked it. I grew up in Miami, and if you've ever been to Miami, EDM is everywhere there. There's Ultra Music Festival, which is one of the biggest festivals every year in Miami. There's world class clubs like Space Miami, 11, and it's kind of just part of the culture there. But when I got to Nashville 4 years ago, the first thing I noticed is that it's definitely not as prominent here, and that kind of sound isn't really as big here. And it's obviously a huge music city, but it's country music. It's not electronic dance music. It's definitely more underground here. So my question for this semester was, does Nashville actually have an EDM scene, and if so, what does it look like? How big is it? Things like that. And I'm gonna start with just like kind of talking about some of the venues, and then later on, I'm gonna post or put some of the videos of the different shows that I went to. That way, you guys just have an idea of what it looks like. Um, so here's how I approached it. Over the semester, I attended 6 different shows across 3 different venues. I wanted to go to more, but unfortunately wasn't able to. So the 3 venues I went to are Night We Met, The Pinnacle, and The Caverns. And I tracked each show, the artist, the venue, the crowd, what I thought of the production, and just in general, like my overall impression of it. And I rated each of them and wrote up a review, which I'll have on the website. And the 3 venues are definitely very different from each other, which makes it a little bit unique. Night We Met is a very like I guess you could say boutique house music club. It's maybe 150 people total in there. It's very intimate, and they book different house, techno, and UKG artists. But it's definitely more niche, and it's a lot smaller. And that was probably the main spot that I went to, just because it's open more frequently. The Pinnacle, on the other hand, is bigger. It's a traditional concert venue. They host things besides for EDM there. But the production capacity there is a lot higher. They handle a lot of touring acts that are going across the entire country. I saw Excision there in February, which is a full dubstep production with very, very serious and expensive visuals and lighting. And then Caverns was the last one I went to, which is probably the most unique venue I've been to, not even just in Nashville, but anywhere. And it's literally inside a cave system, about an hour outside of Nashville, and it's very unique. The sound is great because of it's essentially an amphitheater. And it definitely draws a little bit more of a national crowd versus Nashville. So across these 6 different shows, a few things that I saw stood out is that crowd size matters a lot in the small venues. So Night We Met, it essentially lives and dies by who shows up. When the crowd is locked in, they actually know the music, they actually know the artist, and it's not just people leaving Broadway that want to go find a different club. It's definitely a very, very good experience. But when it's not, like one of the shows that I went to, the crowd sometimes doesn't really feel it. You can kind of just hear people talking over the music, which essentially just ruins, I guess, the whole point of going. Um, Another thing I noticed is that Nashville isn't on the radar yet for a lot of certain artists. Like Club de Combat, I went to in March, and they're huge in Miami, New York, LA, and here they packed about half the room out. So it's a little more niche, and like certain artists like them, like they could pack thousands of people at a festival in New York, but here they can pack 50 people. It's sometimes a little bit strange, but it's just a development for Nashville. The last one is that production, obviously, it matters, but that's not the most important thing. So one of my favorite nights was at the Caverns, and their production is it's good, but it's not anything crazy. They kind of just rely on the fact that it's in a cave system to carry a lot of it. But it was definitely the most memorable show I had, just because of the sound system. And I mean, there's no lasers, there was no LED screens or anything like that. But it was the most memorable just because of the sound and the crowd, which I deem to be the most important thing. Um, the most influential part of this process for me was essentially learning to check my own bias. So coming from Miami, I walked into every show with a very specific picture of what a good EDM night looks like. The crowd, the production, a very big artist. But for the first couple shows, I kept on kind of benchmarking Nashville versus Miami, and of course it kept losing because it's completely different. But it's not a really fair comparison. Miami has had decades to build up its scene, and Nashville is very early on in this process. And later on in the process, when I stopped comparing and just instead started just observing how it was in Nashville, I definitely started to enjoy it a little more. Like the last show I went to at Night We Met was great. It was the crowd was dancing the whole time. It was great energy. The room was packed, and it wasn't trying to be anything more than it was. It wasn't trying to be a festival in Miami. It was just everyone in that room was happy to be there, and that's something that even when you scale up, it's a little hard to do. So to wrap up, Nashville does have an EDM scene. It's small. It's still developing, but the people that are in it are regulars. They go to the same places over and over again, and they genuinely are passionate about it. A lot of the conversations I've had at these venues have been really enlightening, and the people that work at these venues definitely do love their job. So Now We Met in specific is doing really good work with their bookings. Like they're doing a great job. Caverns does it a little less often, but the people that go to Caverns all love the scene as well. So I think it's definitely something worth paying attention to. And if I wasn't graduating, I would continue to go to these shows and continue to bring more people into these scenes, so they can enjoy it just how I have. And I think just the idea of engaging with something that was unfamiliar to me, not knowing how the EDM scene was here, is definitely something that was hard to do in practice, but it was something that was definitely really enlightening for me, and I'm definitely glad that I did it. So on that note, I'm gonna put some videos at the end of this of some of the shows I went to, and I hope you enjoy.